This news update is brought to you by...
So, I'm meeting Rico later. Gotta check in with the girls, but first, let me check my usage on the MyLime app. Now, what should I wear? Hashtag sexy. He's here.
An end to a crippling bus strike and a mass casualty accident tops the news in this May 6 Barbados Today afternoon update. So glad you can join us. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. This morning's crippling transport bus strike is over. Bus drivers were instructed to return to their job by the Barbados Workers Union General Secretary Tony Moore following a one-hour meeting at the board's Weymouth headquarters with General Manager Sandra Ford. After emerging from those talks, Moore told reporters that the contentious appointment of a clerical officer, which triggered the industrial action in the first place, had been revoked.
We met with the management. We have to go back and meet with the management, but we thought that we should come out and let you know that the union did not insist that any person had to leave, but the management, recognizing the error in their ways, made a decision to retract the contract that they had offered, albeit on a temporary basis, or perhaps in the first instance, to a young lady who was filling a clerical position. And we have been assured that where we have the perception that there are operators who are being brought in outside of the process, that we have agreed that this is not so, that rather they're just taking applications for these persons and that they would only be entertained once they have exhausted a list of those who had been retrenched.
The workers were upset that the clerical officer was brought in from outside, despite a commitment from management that employees who had been retrenched some months ago would be given priority in future employment.
The workers are very disturbed because we have a discussion that with the Labour Department discussing retrenchment, and that discussion has not have been completed as yet. And now we're seeing that they're bringing in some workers at the transport board. They didn't advertise the job within, so that present workers could apply, or they didn't advertise it externally. So that we see that as a slap in our face. We see it as an insult. So we can't handle that kind of behavior.
I see. And how long ago this? I heard there was a recent case where a lady was brought in.
Yes, a recent case.
There was a recent case.
Plus, we have some other outstanding matters that I would not mention at this time, but I think we have some other outstanding matters that need to be dealt with also.
Is this strike sanctioned by the?
We are not on strike. We didn't report for work. We are not on strike.
That was Barbados Workers Union shop steward Neville Curtin, who spoke to Barbados Today earlier this morning. He also revealed that the strike was planned for yesterday, but drivers acted in good faith, given it was Common Entrance Day.
The workers often wanted to be off the job from yesterday, but you can't do that to our young people. Our young people were eager to sit the exams yesterday, and we act in a very mature manner, and they have no apologies for that. And we also allow the ones that the small vans that go for the people with medical conditions, the dialysis machines and so on. We allow those to go also, and we allow the airport staff bus to go. But if people want to act in bad faith, that is how they are.
Well, earlier, Transport Minister Michael Lashley had called for a speedy resolution to the impasse, which grounded operations at the state-run Transport Board for some 6 hours, leaving hundreds of commuters, including school children, stranded. Members from the opposition Barbados Labour Party, including leader Mia Motley, were also on hand. This is what Shadow Transport Minister Trevor Prescott had to say.
It's obvious that there is major tensions here. This is a volcanic situation, and it looks like this now, but I'm sure that if some resolve don't be brought to the table as soon as possible, this thing can escalate in something out of control.
Over a dozen people, including several school children, were injured this morning in an accident involving 2 public service vehicles. However, none of the injuries are said to be life-threatening at this time. Some of the injured were treated on the scene, while many others were transported to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital and other medical facilities. According to police, the accident between a route taxi and a minibus occurred on the Maxwell Road section of Highway 7. Emergency officials, including doctors from the QEH, police officers, Defense Force officers, the roving response team, firefighters from 2 tenders responded to the mass casualty. The early morning traffic had to be diverted because of the accident. In other news, asthma cases account for just over a quarter of emergency visits to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital every year. That's according to Acting Chief Medical Officer Dr. Kenneth George, who revealed that children made up for the majority of cases. Speaking at a lecture to mark World Asthma Day last night, Dr. George said that the chronic non-communicable disease affects some 16% of school-age children in Barbados and may be higher among the country's infants.
On average, a stark 23% of emergency visits to the accident and emergency are accounted for by asthma, which approximates to approximately 10,000 to sometimes as high as 12,000 visits annually to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital for asthma. Remember that our average annual visit to the accident and emergency is about 45,000 visits per year. And many of you in the crowd know that the accident and emergency is the face of the hospital, because frequently that is the department of where people first interact with the tertiary care institution.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
To regional happenings now, St. Lucia's renowned artist Sir Duncan St. Omer has died at the age of 87. Sir Duncan, who designed the country's flag, passed away in his sleep last night at his residence in Union, that's in the northeast of the island. Over in Cuba, passenger ferries there are expected to travel from the country to Florida for the first time in more than 50 years after the U.S. government approved new services. Services between the two countries stopped when the U.S. imposed a trade embargo on Cuba in 1960. The U.S. government has lifted the ban, and a number of ferry companies say they are now in possession of licenses. And on the international scene, migrant worker groups express anger over Indonesia's move to ban its citizens from working as domestic helpers in 21 countries, mainly in the Middle East. They argue that the move will do nothing to stop the abuse of Indonesian domestic workers and will only drive the trade on the ground, exposing them to even greater risk. The chairwoman of the International Migrants Alliance describes the move as a very desperate move on the part of the government, as it refuses to provide genuine and necessary protection for their overseas domestic workers. And on that note, we come to the end of our afternoon updates, but we'll be back again this evening. Until then, log on to www.barbadostoday.bb, subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook. You can also catch us on Izumi Media, that's in bus terminals, or Screenplay, that's at a supermarket or a gas station near you. Also, we're on Channel 101 on Line TV and Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Good afternoon.
This news update is brought to you by...
So, I'm meeting Rico later. Gotta check in with the girls, but first, let me check my usage on the MindLime app. Now, what should I wear? Hashtag sexy.